Okay, thank you. Good evening. We will call the July 20th, 2022 meeting of the Eagle Board of Trustees for the library to order. We will do roll call. Heyer?
Present.
Solberg here. Lewis?
Here.
Hopkins?
Present.
Okay. Additions, deletions, and modifications to the agenda. So this evening we will remove under the consent agenda item 4D and item 4H. And then I would like to move old business A and new business A and B right after the consent agenda and before the report. So they will become new numbers 5 and 6 respectively. Reports will drop to 7. Are there any other changes to the agenda other than what I've mentioned?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the new agenda as presented.
All approve.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed. New agenda carries. All right. This is the time to consider any routine actions in one motion under the consent agenda. We have the minutes from June 15th. We have approval of bills. We have the policy review of meeting rooms, which there are no recommended changes, and policy review of library use, of which there are no recommended changes. Anything need to be pulled for discussion? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, consent agenda approves. Okay, so we will move on to old business, action item strategic plan. And I'm going to turn this over to Candace because she was amazing and pulled together a draft survey.
Sure thing. So we pulled together a draft survey with, it has 12 questions currently. That survey is trying to gauge, oh, great, thanks, Steve. Gauge a number of items from the community. We do intend to both print as well as have this survey available online. So Steve, I would love to, when we come up with a final survey, work with you to make sure that is printed and then in some kind of format online for distribution. As of now, everybody has had the opportunity to contribute comments and questions, and there is just a few other kind of items on here that we might want to discuss quickly. The 1A, question 1, do you live in Eagle? Yes. We could ask for confirmation of someone's physical address is probably the way that we could do it. However, that is, maybe perhaps information that would make someone feel less anonymous and less willing to contribute. So I don't know if there's thoughts on that item. And then Steve, if you could scroll down, maybe I'll just bring up a few of them.
Where do you want to go to?
Okay, there's just more since I checked this out earlier. Okay, if we could just keep scrolling down. So are these, I'm sorry, these red comments, are these?
These are mine
Okay.
from this afternoon.
Okay. So, maybe we'll just scroll down a little bit further and then we can come up and address these. So it looks like there's actually several more questions and comments in here than I was able to get to. I apologize. I thought they were all submitted yesterday morning. So how would we like to handle these additional questions and comments? Do we want to... So I'm assuming that we cannot vote on this tonight, which was our intention, right?
Unless we want to have a longer discussion, which we can do, but what we might consider is tabling it, doing our new business, because I want to be respectful of your timeline tonight. And then we could come back to this and do a deeper dive on the survey unless there's any other comments that you would want to make on the survey. before we vote on it. We could certainly wait.
No, I mean, I made my comments, so I think it would just be unless anything really comes out of these, but I don't imagine that you all cannot appropriately address them.
Okay.
And then we will need to schedule in August as well. There's a couple items down here that were removed that need to be approved prior to the September meeting. So that could also be, we can also review it and have a vote on that in August too, if that's.
Yeah, we would just need to reschedule the August meeting.
Right, and that's what we need to do that anyway.
Okay.
Steve had mentioned that just before, so it'll be prior to the August meeting anyway, what was planned, and so that would give an opportunity that we didn't think we would have,
Oh, okay.
to approve this by August, but.
Okay. Yep, that's fine. The only question outstanding as of early this morning, when I checked at whatever time, 4:50 a.m., was the one that was number 9 about the hours. So I can go through and read your comments, Steve. I apologize. I did not know you made those today.
I made them kind of late in the afternoon. So I figured you wouldn't have a chance. Nobody would have a chance probably to read them.
Okay, well, I guess that changed our timeline a little bit on this. So it sounds like we will not be able to vote on it tonight, and so we can just carry that forward.
Okay. Okay, that will be carried forward until the August meeting. Okay, moving on to new business, new item 6A, Staff Development Day. Steve?
We would like to move Staff Development Day from the first Thursday of December to Sunday, December 4th. Like we did last year, close the library for the day. We have a workshop lined up with Boise State Center for Professional Development. And so we would just need to be closed for that day.
Okay. And you generally pick staff development days on days where historically there's low traffic in the library.
It's pretty low.
So.
In early December is just pretty quiet.
Okay. All right. Anybody have questions for Steve, concerns or comments? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve Staff Development Day for December 4th, 2022.
I motion to move Staff Development Day to December 4th, 2022.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved. Okay, so 6B is personnel requests. Steve?
In the monthly report, I laid out some personnel issues that we're facing with one upcoming resignation. So I'd like to combine 3 part-time positions into 1 full-time position to help cover another resignation that I know will be coming up within the next few months. And there's plenty of funds to cover this, and this will provide a great deal of continuity for us.
Okay. Any questions or concerns for Steve?
And with the 3, is the 3 positions, is that the same, like, FTE status or same number of hours, or are you going to be losing hours?
Right now, we would lose,
Okay.
but there's an opportunity in a little bit down the road where we would recover them.
Okay,
And it's not much. I think it ends up being maybe like 6 or 7 hours.
okay. Will it put more stress on the library and on the staff to have those?
It shouldn't.
Okay.
And is there any concerns with fewer number of people being able to fill in the hours that the library is open, having 1 combined position?
No, we should be fine.
Okay.
Until we can come back and like do the second part of it.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. All right. Then I would entertain a motion to approve Steve's personnel request to combine 3 part-time positions into 1 full-time programming specialist position.
I will move to approve the personnel request.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. That is passed. Thank you very much. Who seconded that? Sorry.
I did.
Thank you. I thought you did. All right. Okay. We are going to move into executive session. when authorized in executive session.
We're doing the reports first.
No.
Okay.
Oh, did I not modify the agenda to move that up?
You modified it. I missed it. I missed
Okay,
kind of the
that's
order.
fine. A session at which members of the public are excluded may be held, but only for the purposes and only in the manner set forth in this section. This motion to go into executive session shall identify specific subsections of this section that authorize executive session. There shall be a roll call vote on the motion, and the vote shall be recorded in the minutes. The executive session shall be authorized by 2/3 of the vote of the governing body. We are going in under 76-2061B to consider evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining or hearing complaints, charges brought against public officer, employee, staff member, individual agents, public school student. Okay, may I have a motion to go into executive session?
I will move to go into executive session.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We are in executive session at 6:10 p.m. We're going to skip across the hall and we'll be back momentarily. Thank you. Do we have to vote to come out of special? Okay. And then vote on what was discussed in special, right? Okay, all right. Okay, I will entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
I motion to come out of executive session.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We are all approved? Aye.
Aye.
We are out at 6:23 p.m. We also need to take a vote at what we did in executive session. May I have a vote to approve our discussion?
I will motion to approve.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that is approved. Thank you both all very much. Okay. Before we move into reports, do we want to do reports out of respect for the community members that are here first before we go back to the strategic plan?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. Steve, director's report, please.
Circulation for the month of July was very high, about 50, almost 57,000 items, which is maybe 1.5%, I think, below where it was prior to the pandemic. So that's really good. The budget was presented to City Council last Thursday, I think. And so they're hearing all the departments. They'll do another session tomorrow for some other departments, and then I think public hearing must be early in November or early in August. Summer reading is kind of beginning to wind down a little bit. I think we have 600 active readers at this point, which is really good, pretty standard. And then probably the biggest thing we had happen this past month was the Keeley Cross was awarded an internship with Senator, what's his name, Risch's office in Washington.
Wow,
So she's very excited. We're all thrilled for her. It's pretty, very nice opportunity.
fantastic.
So that's about it.
Okay, any questions for Steve on the director's report? Okay, we will move into the Friends of the Eagle Public Library who've been waiting very patiently.
Thank you. Before I get to the Friends of the Library report, I would like to hearken back to the June 15th meeting and correct a piece of misinformation or to illuminate something. The items under the consent agenda, item K, Sustainable Shells Agreement with Baker and Taylor, approval of recommendations to City Council for approval of sustainable Shell's agreement with Baker and Taylor. I know who Baker and Taylor are because I see all their boxes come in the library all the time. And Steve used to put their wonderful packing material on their friend's desk. We use quite a bit of it in packing. Before I get to that, though, I have to say I operate here at a considerable disadvantage. I have quite a hearing loss problem, and even with new, top-of-the-line, state-of-the-art hearing aids, I really don't have a clue what you ladies are talking about most of the time. The only person I can hear Kristen, but speaking through the mask, she could be the Aflac duck. It just doesn't come through. Kristen, I can hear, or Candace, I can hear and understand mostly if they're short sentences. Longer sentences get lost somewhere. And even Steve, standing here as close as we are, with a mask on, it just comes through garbled most of the time. Every once in a while I pick up something, but not very much. Anyway, back to Baker and Taylor. I had no idea really what Baker and Taylor, what the subject was about there. Mary wasn't here last night, so she couldn't speak to it. I didn't find out what it was about until Mary called me the next day. She had looked at the meeting online and called to say I should have said something, which I should have, to the question that Candace asked Steve. These books were not wanted or used, and the friends can't use them. And Steve's comment back was that everything I've always heard, the library discards don't really move. That's what I'm always told. Okay, there's a misunderstanding there someplace, because over the years we have dealt with hundreds, if not thousands, of discarded books. At one time we had so many discarded books we had to get a pod to store them in until we could process them. We sell quite a few of them online. Many of the vendors that we deal with, and you have the list of vendors that we deal with here that Mary gave you, many of the vendors we deal with accept library discards. What they don't, what doesn't move there, we also put in the everyday book sale and then in our semi-annual book sales. So I really, if I had been aware of what we were talking about, I would have stood up and mentioned to Steve that yes, we do need to use the library discards. As I said, especially the nonfiction. They're quite pricey sometimes. So that being said, the second thing was Candace asked, is this going to be additional work for the staff? And Steve's response was, no, maybe even less. I would just like to say that to me, and when working in the garage at the library, that we would come in sometimes and the books would just be stacked up on carts. I have no idea what could be easier than taking them off the shelf, putting them on the carts, reading them in the back room, and forgetting them. As they become a bad memory, the friends take care of them. So that having been said, I'll move on. Do you have any questions about the Baker and Taylor or withdrawn books or anything in that nature?
No, but thank you.
Okay. New stuff is that the Friends of the Library have moved out of the Chapman garage into City Hall. We have a very nice space. It's clean. Thank you. And it's comfortable. It's very comfortable. Air conditioned, amenities, a bathroom right around the corner, and cold water and everything. We are alive and well, and as you can see from the financial report, the everyday book sale is doing extremely well. Book Scouting is doing very well. It's difficult to believe, hard to believe, the number of donations that come in to the City of Eagle, to the library. It's just amazing. Mary and I emptied the bin, I think, when we came in Tuesday morning, and then when we went back to the shed to put the key away, it wasn't completely full again, but about halfway full. Wow. And that's a great number of books. Anyway, things are doing well. We're adapting to our new situation. The friends are getting organized and getting into a routine. So that's about it. Do you have any questions? Comments?
No, just we're happy to hear about the new space. That's wonderful.
We're very happy. And I would like to say this is going to be my last meeting. As I've discovered by not responding to item K on the agenda last month, I'm more of a liability to the Friends here than an asset. It would be much better off if they had somebody that could hear and knew what was going on. so I'll be turning my duties over to somebody else. They'll be making reports. But I did want to say it's been very nice getting to meet you ladies and know who you are, and I appreciate your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hal.
Thank you for your service, Hal.
Thank you. Okay, our City Hall liaison is not here this evening. I did want to mention that I called the city clerk's office, and we have 4 to 5 applicants for our 1, soon-to-be 2 open positions. And the clerk seemed to think that starting around the 27th of this month, that the mayor would be holding interviews. So just a heads up if we want a board member there for those interviews. And then I haven't heard any updates from City Hall about an office unless you have, Steve. Okay, kind of figured. All right, then we will move into the board specialist reports. Growth and development?
None.
Okay. Finance, Steve just mentioned the budget, so I have nothing additional. Personnel?
I don't have anything.
Thank you. Foundation?
Just continuing to get, the foundation members are continuing to pull together the pieces to establish the foundation. It's very close. We have a meeting tomorrow. They were working on setting up a bank account over the month, so I'm not sure where that is, but they are about this close to being able to accept donations and funds, and so if anybody is interested in making any donations and kind of knowing where that stands, it is very close. So I can keep you posted on that, and hopefully there will be more to come soon.
Okay, yes, please do keep me posted. Wonderful. Okay, then I think we're going to circle back to the strategic plan instead of carrying it forward. We really would like to get this moving. So, Steve, if you would be so kind to pull up the survey that Candace worked so hard on, then we're going to hash this out tonight, and then whenever Nikki needs to take off, you please feel free to do so.
So, Steve, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we could just edit this copy right here as we go?
That's fine.
Wonderful. So we'll just maybe walk through the comments in red. Everything else has been agreed upon by the board. So the first question, do you live in Eagle? Steve asked, can this be verified? The only way I can think is to run or ask somebody for their address and then try and verify addresses. I would probably prefer not to, but open to comments.
Well, I think this is a twofold issue. Steve, was your comment mostly related to those who pay the tax levy within the city limits? Because there are a lot of people that consider themselves living in Eagle that aren't in the city limits of Eagle.
They don't pay taxes.
Right. So you're interested, you were just interested in the city levy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a clear way to capture that, and I think by asking people to enter an address, I think it would really discourage participation based on my past experiences with some, but self-report on any of these is always pretty dodgy, so.
So Candace had mentioned software that would narrow it down to like within a block or so.
We
Will
can
that
do
Microsoft
that
do it?
if somebody is not on a virtual private network. It depends on what their cell phone carrier would be willing to give them. And we'd probably need to get the more expensive version of software. So if we want to use the free version of Surveyware, it probably is not going to give us their physical location. If we did the paid version, we might be able to get more information, but it's no guarantee. So if somebody was on their, work laptop and on their network, we couldn't see where that was coming from.
Okay.
And I think for the roughly 200 or so responses, I don't know if it's going to be a make or break. My personal opinion, Nikki.
I would think it'd be nice to collect, but I think to encourage responses and sort of save the analysis, we're better off without it.
Okay.
Right? Great.
So moving on, this section, this is for anybody tuning in. We were wanting to ask about services that the Eagle Public Library should offer. And we did take these from a group of services that were presented by the American Libraries Association as kind of categories, broad categories that the library can provide. We did a little bit of editing to these categories already to make them maybe a little bit easier to understand and fit our community. So residents will have the opportunity to rank what are the most important to them. So I'm just going to go through and look at the comments under businesses and nonprofits. Okay.
So there's two spots, right? There's Boise Public Library, where they should or did at one point have like people who focused on business services, and then the Idaho Nonprofit Center. My only concern with this question is if it comes back as the very high ranked response, we don't have the resources to do that. Business resources are incredibly expensive. And so I would just kind of throw that out there, because they will eat up a huge chunk of money.
And having worked personally with the Idaho Nonprofit Center, they are phenomenal at what they do. So I would feel perfectly comfortable understanding that there's some other resources in the community. Aside from the financial aspect, I think people would be able to get what they needed.
I think one thing we discussed while forming some of these questions was the use of space at the library for business in meeting needs.
As like office space kind of thing.
Office space, meeting with safe space to meet clients. So I think this could be that the space need could be addressed. Do you mind scrolling down, Steve?
Space question.
There's a question about the space, physical and virtual spaces. And if we feel that service would meet the needs of the business community or be sufficient, then I think striking the business selection is fine.
I would vote to move that to the space discussion.
So Steve, if you could go back up and let's strike item B. Great. Get facts fast.
Historically, and when the service responses were created, this kind of service response was something that all libraries did. Mm-hmm. Right? You'd have what was called at the time ready reference, and people would call, and you would just give them answers to whatever their questions were. That doesn't really happen anymore.
Okay.
With much more accessibility to the internet, when people say that the internet took away the need for libraries, it's kind of like that part of it. It's the ready reference questions that we just don't get anymore.
Okay. I would be fine striking this. This was probably one of the weaker service responses to me. I just wanted to include it because it didn't seem to not fit our community. So yeah, I'd be fine striking this and just knowing that is something the library still does provide to certain individuals.
Yeah, so you guys all want to get rid of it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Whoops, hold on.
So this one...
Hold on, can we just scroll back up? How many of the service responses so we do have? Okay.
7.
I just wanted to make sure we had, if we say 3 to 5, I wanted to make sure we had 3 to 5 for them to do. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think the residents will still need to throw some out or not rank them.
Should that number be changed, does anyone feel, or make it a more solid 4, or?
And I need to see with whatever survey, probably Microsoft Forms, because that's what the city has, what the capabilities are before we solidly commit. But yeah, we can kind of finagle that so that they still need to do some kind of ranking or selection of a few.
Okay. I would think in terms of setting priorities moving forward, typically, 3 solid ones is good, but if we capture 5, it may help inform other programming or other things later. So I'm not opposed to having the full 5, understanding that when you focus on your strategic planning, maybe 3 is more optimal.
Okay. In this question, we were wanting to talk about library facilities and trying to rank from the three options we were providing, which people would be willing to and interested in dedicating resources to. So we had the third option as a bookmobile.
I think it's the terminology.
So could we just change? I agree, bookmobile in my mind does kind of have some of those connotations. I would be happy with the phrase mobile library.
Yeah,
Is that-
what about even providing both of those options, adding two line items, one that, buy or create a mobile library, and then as an additional option, provide pop-up library service? I mean, I think those could at least give a variety of options that can at least give considerations and give us a sense of what the public is looking for.
I like that. Would you mind?
You want so two questions out of that one? Or two responses?
Create two items. yeah.
Correct.
Do you want to say buy a mobile library or obtain a mobile library?
Yes.
Obtain?
Yeah.
Oops. Do you want to qualify why? For service to underserved areas of the city?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that sounds good.
Would there be do we want to define that more? Because underserved has so many different connotations to it. I'm wondering would it be like to provide service for anybody outside of a 3-mile radius from the central facility or 5 mile? Do we want to geographically quantify what that would look like?
I don't know, because you could use it more centrally as well. If you live right here and you say this is only going to go to outlying areas, why would you pick it?
So could we say, maybe I'm trying to think for the timing, maybe for special events and outreach activities, for special events and
Or what about just
homebound? I guess I'm still trying to wrap my head around what the two would do.
What about just to additional locations throughout the city?
That's good.
Like it.
So to provide library service to additional locations?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And then it could be across the street, or it could be West Eagle.
Way to go, Kirsten. Glad somebody else's brain cells are fresher than mine are today.
It's hit and miss.
So what do you want to do with this one?
Um,
Because it's really dependent on having the resource to go do it.
So this is, to me, is a facilities question. What do you need in the way of a facility to promote a pop-up library service that's different than like a roving mobile?
You need the thing that's going to take the service to someplace. You need the transportation.
Don't we have a book bike?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Book in there. You need something that can transport.
So to me, I'm wondering if this is going to, if it's a little bit confusing to us, I wonder if it would be confusing to those who are not thinking about the library as much as we are. To me, this is clear. It's a building, or something else.
Yeah. I agree with you. Maybe we'll just leave that off. Because when I think of that, I think of pop-up restaurants, and then they just go in and, set up shop for a day or 2 weeks in an open location, a physical building that they don't own.
Yeah, or like the pop-up farmers market where they come to it for a few hours and then leave.
Yeah. Or like a food truck.
Yeah. But those all have the ability to take something someplace. Mm-hmm. And that's what we lack.
Right. Well, to me, this is more or less covered by the mobile library.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Great.
Before you move on, though, go to the item above it. Oops. Build an additional branch in West Eagle. It's that same thing that if you live here, like, who cares? Right? You're not going to get anything out of it. You're probably not going to drive from behind City Hall out to Highway 16 to a library.
I would go to the new building. I like new buildings. I think especially if we had a niche, like we talked about, maybe having kind of more of a tech hub focus or something, or maybe if we were to build a new facility, people could weigh in at that point about focuses for a new building versus the current facility. We also don't necessarily have to say West Eagle,
I
but
think it's west. I think
I
it's
think
the
that's
location.
what
Yeah.
we all understand. That's where we have the opportunity to have some resources dedicated to potentially a new branch. So I'm not too worried about it. I think it will be the voice of what everyone thinks. Either they say, they're interested in the new branch, or they don't.
It would also be interesting, I think, to leave it because if people in West Eagle are passionate about the library and do want to see the service, then they may ask their neighbors. And so if we see an overwhelming support for West Eagle, then we know these people are well and truly hungry for that. I'm fine with leaving it the way it is. I'm curious. I'd be really curious to see what the responses turn out to be.
And again, well, if and when we do have resources, we'll have many more conversations with the community about a renovation or a new branch or a mobile library.
All right, so you want to leave it?
Yep.
I'd leave it, yes.
All right.
So this question, we actually had a hard time wording it. I think we were trying to say, how interested are you in having the Eagle Public Library provide space and resources for creating? The phrase makerspace, I realize, was recommended, and that is used in some contexts at other libraries. At Jump, I know they have a makerspace. It's kind of a crafting physical space, and
That's what they call it? A
Make-
jump?
at Jump,
Yeah, that's what they call it?
yeah, the fourth floor, it's like the wood burning and I don't know. The lab that they have, it's the makerspace. Mhm.
Well, maybe people do know. I'm not sure I would know if I wasn't involved.
Yes, I do think that phrase maker has become bigger in pop culture with, shows on Netflix and that kind of thing. We don't have to use that phrase. We could strike that and just say provide a space to create, we could say content and,
Well, I mean, we could just do parentheses and say, record a podcast or, whatever, like 2 or 3 examples of a broader spectrum of things that could be accomplished in a space.
yeah, so in the initial question, we add a little bit more to that. So saying makerspace, and then in parentheses, we could say, some of those examples.
Do you want create virtual content, or are we interested in things like the 3D printing and expanding the hard stuff?
I think we were trying to ask about all of them to be fair and balanced.
Okay.
So I think that's why it says to create physical items on item I, and then to create digital content was the second.
Okay, so
And that just flows from if they choose yes. So I'm like, that helps to define it. But if it doesn't show up initially,
Yeah, so we just need to add, so Steve, can we go up under the just question 6, like the heading question? So if you're interested in having it provide a makerspace or space to create content, maybe after the word content, we put the parentheses.
for example, physical
Okay,
items,
yeah.
podcast, or
let's say maybe, yeah, for example, we don't have to commit to it, but 3D printing, podcasts, et cetera. Is that enough? Okay.
Crafts, are we going down, we don't ask anything about crafts, but,
No.
okay, we'll just
I feel
leave
that
it
our
with that.
programming meets some of
Included in programs
those
to a degree.
needs.
Okay, so 3D printing podcasts into parentheses, okay. Okay,
Great. Okay, then I'm satisfied with that question.
cool.
So we took the question 8. There's actually a question that the Boise Public Library was asking that was a little bit similar, and I do not think that it implies that it's not welcoming. To me, this question was more of like a taking ownership of the library. What is it that you would like to see to make it meet your needs, meet the needs of our community? But
Are we trying to understand what would draw people in and have them want to hang out and stay rather than just a grab and go? Or,
I don't think it's necessarily the physical space. It might be that somebody says, you know, I don't know how to request materials. I need a better website, or I need more friendly staff, or I don't want anyone to greet me. I want to be left alone, or whatever it is. Just trying to me, this was kind of getting the pulse of where possible improvements are, without having that really kind of like open language that was associated with the question. Did you read the Boise? Yeah.
And I would say, I mean, that was my take too, of just kind of giving an opportunity for where can we continue to improve. To give it in a general way, but also, so.
yeah, I was thinking for a second about more accessible, but then that goes back to the physical space and the virtual space. So we've already kind of captured the accessibility part there.
But what if you go back to what you had just said and said to make it more enjoyable to use
Yeah,
or easy to use? You know, you're talking about the website accessibility.
Or
Because
enjoyable for
because
your
those are,
use,
if that's what you're trying to get at, that's different than welcoming.
Okay. I'm comfortable changing that wording.
I like that.
So from
Which of those?
More
wel-
enjoyable to use, or what were you thinking, Candace?
Yeah, enjoyable to use. The question about hours, I think we had gone back and forth on this, so I threw it back in. And Steve, do you mind scrolling so we can read your comment? I'm sorry, is there text below this as well?
Yeah. Just tell me to keep scrolling.
Oh, okay, so this is the hours for all of the libraries in the community?
Yeah, and Eagle offers more hours than anybody.
So that was kind of my question. We wouldn't be able to offer more hours, so I don't want to float that right now. But if we want to query them about the existing hours, if we open at 11 and stay open later in the evening, does that work better than being open at? So do we?
Yeah.
Then my question was, staffing wise, even if the public wanted that, could we accommodate that without increasing the number of hours our doors are open?
I think you'd have a lot of people quit, for one thing.
So I guess I was thinking when putting this question back in, not about this year or next year with our current staffing and resources, but maybe looking further out. It's hard to know, though, if what somebody answers today is the same opinion they would have 4.5 years from now when we're addressing the facilities issue.
Yeah, that would be tough.
You know, it's the same question. We ask this every year or every time we do one of these surveys. And we always get the same response, that where it's fine, or we want you to be open like you're a college or university. You know, and then you get the mix about like, well, I don't think you should be open Sundays, or I'm so glad you're open Sundays.
Okay, well, I'm fine striking this question. It would be one fewer questions to the community.
I'm just not sure at this point there would be anything that we could actually act on
Okay,
right now. I mean, maybe in the future, especially if a new facility's open, then prior to that facility opening, maybe that would be the time to query around hours for the new facility. I don't know, just a thought.
okay, yeah, I think this question can be tabled till our facilities concerns are addressed. To me, Steve, the phone calls was actually to the library. Probably, are you open?
Well, none of the others, the top three aren't to the library. The in-person visits is to the library. And then E is to the library too. So it kind of felt like when I read phone calls, I wasn't really clear which direction the information was going. So it was more clarification.
Maybe phone calls to the library.
I would say two, yeah. I don't know if there's another option we want to add here. We mentioned wanting to have more publicity in the city newsletter, but I don't think that's much of anything right now. There's not a lot that I've noticed. Are there other ways, maybe?
So through that, through those demographic sources we have, I think we have this information already as to how people want to receive information.
I would still like to ask this question, if at all possible. I think that could help us to focus just some of our communication.
Well, and it might tell us more about the respondents to the survey as well. So I agree. I'd like to leave it in. And then maybe just change the wording, phone calls to the library. So that puts the onus on the respondent saying, I call the library for information. Okay.
I was just thinking the only one, what about any of the apps? Do they have, I do not use it to look up branch information or anything. Do you know, Steve, if any of the applications have information about the library itself?
Besides ours, I doubt it.
Okay.
I don't think
Okay.
it
The only
does.
thing, like IDA has the catalog. You can know where you can get books, like where they're available, or we can hold.
But
I don't know that that's meeting the need of that question.
no, and to make the app as usable as it could be, everybody's tried to keep the number of like menu choices to a minimum.
Okay. I just mean with the current functions. I don't know that it's even addressing the needs of the question as far as getting information about the library other than like the catalog and resources.
And I think the intent of this question, and correct me if I'm wrong, Candace, is really to elicit the most open-ended response we can get from the community. And this is kind of another way of saying what's missing from your perspective,
Correct.
but in a different way.
And this is, to me, I thought if we left this open-ended, we would come up with a much more diverse set of responses. Or if most people taking the survey are like me, when they have no opinion, they'll just skip it.
Yeah.
If they think it's fine, they would potentially just skip it or, say none or NA or something like that. So to me, this was trying to actually have, instead of those set choices, have that free text.
Do you want to add a free text option for something that we haven't considered so that we can understand what alternatives are?
We can also do that.
I mean, just adding other, so that,
Yeah, there's not a ton of questions here, so I would be open to doing something.
because the intent of the question is to understand how people want, like what our avenues are for additional advertising and putting out information about the services. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm sorry, I've moved on to question 10 in my head
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
because it's on the screen. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And are we still talking about 9?
I think we're on 10.
Okay,
Nine-
never mind.
9E is fine.
Strike my comments. I'm lost in another conversation.
Feels my week like this. My week this week.
Okay, there we go. Okay. This was the one I was talking about, to have open responses and choices.
And I don't know if priorities is the right word, and I don't know if positive community impact is. I struggled with the wordsmithing on this one. I think what I wanted to find out from the community is more what will continue to make the library relevant in Eagle. And I don't know if I got there with that wording or not. Probably not, because it was late.
I think you should just ask that. What would continue, or what would make the library continue to be relevant to you?
And to me, I actually liked the part that's focusing on the community versus the to you, because I think a lot of the questions are very personally focused and people will still likely answer with their own bias. But I was actually hoping in this question we could, focus on Eagle, on the community, or the community impact, or the future of Eagle. So kind of outside of the purely personal focus.
I like that. I think everybody's pretty personally focused of late. It wouldn't hurt for them to think
Yeah.
about the broader community.
I don't know if there's a more, yeah.
I like that, Steve.
Oh, that thing?
Just that combination of relevance and community.
That's great to me.
Okay. So
You want to use that instead?
Yes. And let's just make sure it says Eagle Public Library. I tried to put that in there everywhere instead of just the library.
the only reason I was pretty particular is if somebody answered that they used Meridian or whatever, then
Exactly.
it just becomes a larger question of,
Well, yeah, our survey is very much limited to the scope of
yeah.
this library. Uh-oh.
Oh, well,
We can figure that out.
I'll figure the numbers.
He broke the numbering.
And I'm hoping that, question number 10, just, it's technically 11. Anything else you'd like to tell us will provide people the opportunity to also provide that free text if they say, I would like to have better parking or whatever their issue is, so that they can be heard.
In the last time we ran a survey, it was really interesting, the comments we got back, and there was a lot of positivity. So it gave them the opportunity to kind of brag on what they liked best. Now, obviously, there were some people that had some legitimate concerns and criticisms, but that was the one thing that kind of let us put our fingers on the tempo of this is what we're doing well right now. Because people were all too excited to tell us about it, which was really neat to read. So I like that one.
I was thinking one of the biggest probably changes and additions that we didn't capture here was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been the addition of curbside services and having more dedicated space and methods for making that successful. I think we know that that's popular based on the numbers and usage. Is there anything I'm thinking we did not mention that anywhere specifically. Did we want to highlight that for any reason?
I can think of a good one.
I can think of a real good reason to do it.
Great.
I think we should ask about that.
Okay, great. Let's throw one in. Maybe could we do it by the facilities question?
What, this one,
Just, I'm thinking kind of,
please?
yeah, in that area, because this is where we're talking about, services provided. I think we know how many people use it, and so we can have information about the frequency of use and the number of items. So
You know, I think, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we launched this, it was under the auspices of the pandemic, and it was kind of couched as a temporary service. I'm wondering if we then come back and say, how interested are you in us keeping this as a permanent service?
yes,
Then perhaps that would help inform the city a bit.
But are you talking about curbside or doorstep?
I was thinking primarily of, well, was that in our capital ask for,
It was at one point, and then it got yanked out, and
Vehicle?
now it's just kind of floating.
could we ask about both of them and just have the Likert scale? Very interested, not interested.
Yeah.
So,
It's open. We don't have to do anything with the responses if, for some reason, we move in a different direction. But get the pulse of the community. So ask one for curbside and one for doorstep.
and you're just saying, are you,
interested in having
Just-
this become a permanent service?
but they are.
Well, but when we launched them, though, it
People
was-
might, yeah, they might not know it's just kind of a holdover, you know.
Bring that up and say these services were introduced due to the confines of the pandemic. Are you interested in making these permanent services, or how interested are you? And making it known that these were introduced for that reason and not necessarily determined as permanent, but.
having to think.
Yeah. Because they are, I mean, curbside is, I don't think there's a library in the country that did curbside that has pulled it back.
That's not my reason for asking the
Well,
question.
not to say that that's
Yeah,
the
I know.
intention.
I know.
But-
But it is pretty much permanent.
But the
But the-
facility we have to house that is not.
Right. Yeah, I know.
So I'm just wondering if seeking some information from the community might help inform the city that more permanency around that would be nice.
Yeah, but how do you then phrase it so that it, you know, what are you going to say? Do you want a permanent structure?
I don't,
As far as they're concerned, there is like a structure and a place, right? Everybody knows where it is, and they just go up to the tent, but that doesn't address the need for like the permanence of it.
I don't think the community needs to know that. I just think we need to point to saying 80% of the respondents said they're interested or very interested in maintaining this as a service. And then we as a board and you as library identify what we need to make that successful.
And if it's a permanent service, we need to move into more permanent
Structures.
structure and support to continue the service and keep it viable.
So what do you want to say?
So I guess here's my question. Do we want to ask about doorstep and pickup or just pickup, curbside pickup?
I would ask about both because there's an issue with doorstep and the transportation of items again. because we have an incredibly small fleet of cars in the city, and some of the departments just think they're theirs, right? And there is in the capital plan a vehicle for the library, but it's pushed off to the side.
Okay, well, I think we can ask both questions. There is no harm in asking them and gathering that information from the residents, in my
I like
mind.
the Likert scale, because that will gauge the
Yeah.
really, really want this. Or, you know, if doorstep is less than curbside, then we know which one to ask for first, or
Exactly.
if they're both really high, then we have the data from the community to say, hey, guys.
Right, and it might also be a way to get people to know that there are those options,
Yes.
you know, too.
Yep. So
So-
how interested are you in maintaining curbside pickup service, and how interested, from a scale of 1 to 5, and how interested are you in maintaining doorstep delivery service, scale of 1 to 5?
Oops.
I wonder if we need to say in the library maintaining, because I don't want people to read that and think that it's a funding question.
In the Eagle Public Library, maintaining.
You never know how people are going to read questions and whether they
I
think
think,
it's going
yeah.
to come out of their pocketbook.
You have to write them all, especially because we were talking about facilities above, yeah. Yeah, I think that fits in well with the facilities questions. Great.
And with these scales, we should be sure to define
Yes.
what one is versus
Yes.
5.
We can work on that as we work to get this ready for print and survey. And I'll probably have at least you review before it gets submitted more broadly.
Hey. Ha ha ha. That felt like an accomplishment.
All right.
Is there anything else that we want to add?
Has everything been addressed that was on there?
I think so.
Think
Just
so.
formatting issues, but. All right.
Okay.
I will motion to approve this survey
I bet
as
you,
drafted.
I bet you will, and well deserved too. Thank
I
you.
will second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
It carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Candace, for your
You're
work in
welcome.
pushing that forward.
So Steve, I will like to work with you over the next few weeks to get this drafted for print and digital distribution. And then I believe we said we were hoping to keep this open for part of the summer as well as going into what we consider kind of the school year, so fall. So probably looking at a 1.5 to 2 month window of having an open survey. But the fun thing about digital surveys is you can check them out as they come in. So that could be kind of fun for us to watch.
Super fun. Okay, now related to the August meeting, are you going to work to try to reschedule that, or do you want to just let it go now that we've carried this?
Well, there are items that were scratched from the consent agenda that need to be approved so that it can go
Okay.
to city council.
Okay,
So it sounds like it does not need to be a long meeting, but we do need to convene and make those approvals.
Okay.
So Steve is going to check on availability and let me know. I will work with you and Nikki and anyone else that may be involved, and make sure that we can get that scheduled, get something worked out.
Great.
is
Wonderful.
there,
Good, Steve? Is that perfect?
is there anything else before we move to adjourn? Okay, well, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to serve the library and wish you all the best moving forward. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Fabulous. May I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I've never used this. I've been waiting.